Hi, welcome to One Eye on the Page. I'm Scott. We are down to the final four for Stephen King 5-Year Battle. It's been a long road to get here, and some of the books are predictable. Some of them are not. Some of them, one of them, possibly, you will not agree with. A couple of them you expected to see here. So we're going to get down to it. We have The Stand versus Different Seasons, It versus Insomnia, the winner of those to go on to fight to see what is the best Stephen King book. So we have The Stand, and I'm sorry I don't have a better copy of this. I do have better copies of the uncut edition, but versus Different Seasons. You know all about The Stand. It's about the end of the world, the super flu, Captain Trips takes out 99.99 whatever percentage of the world, and the survivors try to survive, try to rebuild society, end up fighting good versus evil, uh, Deus Ex Machina, the finger of God, the hand of God, and do humans learn? What's the answer to that? I don't know. What Stu says. I don't know. And then we have Different Seasons, a collection of 4 novellas, King's best novella collection, possibly his best collection overall, whether it be novellas or short stories, nonfiction, whatever. The best. Two of them you've definitely heard of, Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption and The Body, both of them made into movies. The Shawshank Redemption and Stand By Me, respectively. Also, Apt Pupil, pretty well known, also made it into an adaptation. And The Breathing Method, which is my favorite of the novellas. It may not be the best, it may be, but it's my favorite, partly because it's the least known one and partly because that club is awesome, and I'm upset, and I will bring it up every time that it only appears in 2 stories, and only once in a really good story. So you have a collection of 4 awesome novellas. I have said several times before, I'm not particularly fond of Apt Pupil, but I do acknowledge that it is a great story, just not one that I often want to read. The other 3 novellas I will read anytime. The Stand. Okay, one, The Stand is nostalgic for me. I was basically introduced to The Stand by my mother. My mother, may her soul rest, has borrowed The Stand from me probably about 8 times, and she has dropped that book into the bathtub probably about 8 times. This is my hardback copy that I have, but I have had so many paperback copies, so many. Love you, Mom. But she ruined so many. The Stand is an amazing novel. I have talked about my problems with The Stand before. The Stand, up until Harold Lauder talks on that walkie-talkie, is practically a perfect book. After that, I think it loses its way, and people will disagree with me. That's fine. I don't care for Mother Abigail. I don't care for what she represents in the novel. Um, she's a recurring problem that King has with the magical Negro, which I've talked about before. I don't like Deus Ex Machina, which let's be honest. Sure, it was the trash can man, but it was also, hand of God. I don't care for that. I think it lost its way a little bit in the final part of the book. I'm going to mention something totally off the rails here, but I saw an episode of The Big Bang Theory where one of the characters, Amy Fair Fowler, uh, tell Sheldon that the Raiders of the Lost Ark doesn't make sense because Indy didn't really need to do anything. And I kind of feel like that with the Stand. And for you, those who don't understand, doesn't it seem like what happened to the Nazis in Raiders of the Lost Ark was going to happen whether or not Indy was around? It kind of feels like what happened to Randall Flagg was going to happen whether or not they made the trip to Las Vegas. Maybe, maybe not. So I don't like the ending. I like everything up until Harold Lauder used the walkie-talkie, and quite honestly, my favorite character died. I mean, a lot of characters died in it, 99.9%. But I mean, of the characters that we actually know, my favorite character died. And if you're watching this, you probably know what character that is. I'm not spoiling anything for you. I was angry when I read it, but I also read it when I was a teenager. I mean, I understand it more now, but to me, it feels I can feel the strings being manipulated, and I don't mind being manipulated, but I don't want to feel the strings. I just how'd my arm get up there? I don't know. But if it's like, oh, the strings tug, I felt the strings tugging, and I didn't care for that. And I could go into more until reasons that was bad. That if I explained them, it would annoy you, so I won't do that. Before I make decisions, I'm going to talk about it in Insomnia. I've talked a lot about both of these books, so I will talk real quickly about the flaws. This gets kind of bogged down in the middle. This one has that one scene. I mean, it seems like, okay, sure, Scott, it has one bad scene. It's a really bad scene. It's not good. It was a mistake. There are other issues with this, but they're minor. I've talked about them in the previous video. A lot of it just has to do with the fact that I'm talking about it in 2023. This was published in the mid 80s. Stuff that was okay in the mid 80s, not okay, but it was accepted, is not necessarily accepted now. And that's just, hey, that's how time works. uh, Huckleberry Finn was accepted then. Now, not so much. Time. I read this final chapter so many times. I have probably read this more than any Stephen King book. I've read this final chapter more than any piece of writing. I probably read this more than any other Stephen King book. I figured when I did this that there was a good chance that I would pick Insomnia, and that would annoy people. People don't like Insomnia. Some people dislike it. Some people are about it. There are a few people who like it. Are there people who put it up there the same as I do? No, generally not. Hey, if you are out there, say hi. I would like to meet you. I mean, over, YouTube. Let's not get weird. But I would like to meet somebody who likes Insomnia as much as I do. Because we're an exclusive group. So I was going, I'm afraid of picking this because people aren't going to like me. But I'm also like, well, I shouldn't not pick this because I'm afraid of people not liking me. But overall, even though I like this final chapter in here more than I like any individual piece of writing in here, I think I have to pick it. It just has fewer flaws. It is probably, I will say, even more than The Stand, probably the book that Stephen King will be known for long after he is dead. I think it is the most universal book. I mean, sure, we're all scared of pandemics, especially now, but childhood fear, I don't know that anything is more universal than that. So I really did think that whatever it was going against, that Insomnia very well could go to the final two, but I am picking it. And the reason that I did this one first, even though I talked about The Stand in different seasons first, is I thought that this was a no-brainer. And I'm not saying that I'm picking this. I'm saying that I'm not picking this. So I'm like, okay, I got past the it and insomnia thing, and people are going to be fine with me picking it over insomnia. There's one guy in Boise, Idaho, who's mad that I didn't pick insomnia, and I'm sorry, sir. I thought I was going to pick it too, but the flaws on here, the flaws in this book, in these novellas, are few and far between. The flaws in here are a large part of the final part of the book. And I understand that part of the final part of the book is that humans never learn. And that's fine. But again, hey, what are these strings? Um, Flaws in here. Okay, Stud City in the body. That's a major flaw. That is a bad short story. There was no reason to include it. The Revenge of Lord S. Hogan wasn't necessarily a reason to include that, but it was freaking hilarious. And I'm glad they included it. I said before there's a reason they showed uh, the Revenge of Lord S. Hogan in the Stand By Me movie, but not Stud City. At Pupil is not a fun read for me. Again, excellent novella. I talked last week about how I think Revival may be his darkest work. I would say At Pupil at least is his darkest novella, and it's definitely up there for one of his darkest works. I love Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. I love The Body. I just don't read Stud City anymore. I skip it. It's not essential. Once you read it the first time, you get whatever you could get out of it, and you can just go from one part to another and skip the story. But The Body itself is amazing. Some of his best writing in there. It manipulates me so much, but it does it so well. I'm like, yes, hurt me again, make me cry, make me miss friends, make me miss my childhood. Thank you. May I have another? The breathing method is the one horror story in here, but it's excellent. If you have not read it, and I know that some of these novellas are published individually now, so there's even less chance that people will read the breathing method. Read the breathing method at least once. It's my favorite. I'm not saying it's the best. I don't even think it's the best, but it's my favorite. Favorite doesn't have to mean best. Give it a chance. I'm gonna go with different seasons. I didn't think I was gonna do this. I just uh, uh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my mother. I love you, Mom. Um, I know this was her favorite book. You could judge it by the number of ones that have taken watery grave trips. But I'm just going, which one of these would I read again next? Because I'll read both of them again. Let's not be crazy here. I'll read any of these four again. I would read this more than this. So, in definitely the shocking upset of this entire series, I think. Was there anything more upsetting? I don't. There were a few that the number ones that I picked weren't the number ones that I thought I was going to pick. I thought the entire time this was going to be in the final two. I had no doubt about it. I had more doubt about it because the way I had the rankings going, it was going to be against Insomnia. I had a chance. I didn't think. I thought the only other book that could take this one down would be it, or possibly Insomnia, but I never had them in the same bracket. So I will say that The Stand is obviously not going to be my number one book. I do think it's definitely a top five book. Maybe top four, possibly top three, but it's not the top. Sendel complains to a Hobbit's reading list. She hasn't read any of these books, but hey, she could take one for her dad. So, It versus Different Seasons. Two books published, what, 3 years apart? 1982, 1985, I believe. Was it 85 or 84? Oh, okay. Two books, two books published 4 years apart. 1982, 1986. I was 16 when I read this, and I believe I did read this when I was 12. Pretty sure, because that would seem kind of apropos for the body, don't you think? So, I had, when I started this, as I have said repeatedly, I did not make any decision until I was filming, but I knew with almost a certainty that two of the final four books were going to be The Stand and It, and I thought there was an excellent chance that they were going to be the final two books. When I thought of what was going to be a final two book, never, ever crossed my mind. I thought it was going to be it was going to be it or the Stand, and if there was a book I didn't think most people expect to be there, I thought it was going to be Insomnia. I really did. So, okay, we've talked about both of these books and the problems that they have. And I just think that everything you could want in a book, well, is almost in both of these books. But there's one book that's my childhood, which is a strange thing to say, but it's it. Um, yeah, it is number one. Different Seasons is the runner up. Is Different Seasons better than Insomnia? I'm not going to answer that because you know what? Insomnia didn't make it to the final two. I already got people upset because of the Stand, so I'm not going to upset other people. It is Stephen King's. Okay, it is my favorite Stephen King book. Is it the best? That's a pretty good damn chance it's the best. Uh, I think there's a reason why after it, King didn't go into the horror field quite as much. And if he did horror, sometime it was more in the psychological uh, aspect of it. There were fewer monsters. And let's be quite honest, I love King and I love his later works probably more than most people. But the monsters in later works, the villains, generally weren't as good. I think other aspects of King, of the writing of characters, were better. And there are certainly areas when which he was definitely better, which I will not get into. Because I've already talked about him before and I already talked too much. But like 14 weeks worth or so, basically 3 months, we have gotten down to my favorite and possibly the best Stephen King book, It. If you haven't read it, read it. Don't watch the movies. Watch the movies, but read it. The book is better than the movie. Yes, it is. It's so much better. So much better. And I like the miniseries. I did. I like the first It movie. I didn't see the second It movie, but I really like the first It movie. The book is so much better. That scene sucks. It sucks. It's horrible. You read it, skip it. Skip that scene. They had sex to connect again to get out of the tunnel. That was it. You don't need to read it. There's over 1,100 pages. You can skip a few. Other than that, and I'll be honest, when I do reread this, I do skip that. When I reread stuff, I usually just read the stuff that I like because I know the book. I don't skip a lot in here, but I do skip that scene. So that's it. 50 years of publishing. King's best book is It. He has Holly coming in September. If Holly is a better book than It, I will make another video. Nothing against Holly Gibney and whatever her story is about. If it's a better book than It, I will eat it. I may remove this because I have to eat 1,100 pages of a book. So thank you for watching this week after week as I, without any plan at all, made decisions about what the best Stephen King book is, and got to the end and was afraid that I was going to get burned at the stake. And then I thought, hey, I escaped it because I did pick it over Insomnia, but then I'm like, you know what? The Stand's not that good to be better than different seasons. The Stand is good. I'm going to shut up before I do get burned at the stake. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Tell me what your favorite Stephen King book is. Especially, please tell me what your favorite Stephen King book is if it's not It or The Stand. Especially if you like a Stephen King book that you consider the best that was published in the last 30 years. You people need to raise your voice up. I know you're out there. Thank you very much. I'll see you probably when we go with Agatha Christie books. 5-year battle.